Hello, art friends. Today we're going to be doing a still life drawing, well, sort of, but we're going to be doing a Vanitas drawing, which is a type of Dutch still life, and I'll tell you more about that, and you'll see why I have this. Mine's kind of a mashup. It's a Vanitas, which is that specific type of Dutch still life, but then combined with a little bit of Dia de los Muertos, the Mexican holiday. You can see that kind of symbolism on the eye and the way the flowers are stylized. So that's why I have this here, to be or not to be, a Vanitas picture. So I'll show you about that. I'll tell you a little bit about Vanitas pictures. I'll show you how I did my picture and give you some advice on creating your still life inspired artwork. All right, let's get into it. Okay, a still life is a painting, drawing, photograph, and artwork of still items, usually household objects that the artist can arrange in a specific way to create a beautiful composition and then paint or draw or photograph those items, those still items, a still life. Here's another, that's an example. This is an example by Cezanne, and here is another Cezanne. And here is a Dutch example. And so still life gave artists an opportunity to show their skills. So look at how beautifully I can paint glass and ceramics and fruit and lobsters. And it goes back to ancient art. This is an example of an ancient Egyptian still life. So painting still items goes back throughout the history of art. And artists use it to show off their skills. There's a lot of symbolism in here, in still lifes. And here's a beautiful Dutch example. Now here you can start to see some of the symbolism. And there was a specific type of still life painting that became popular in Dutch painting called Vanitas painting. And I found a great description online. So let me use that to explain Vanitas, a specific type of still life painting.
A Vanitas painting is a special kind of still life that has a lot of symbolic meaning. And the symbols kind of hit you hard over the head. There's often a skull to remind you that life is fleeting, and an hourglass or a clock to remind you that life is fleeting, and a candle burning down to remind you that life is fleeting. Books you should have read, food you'd better hurry up and enjoy. Kind of a downer. These paintings are beautiful, just depressing.
Okay, now I agree that these paintings are beautiful, but I think there's a different way to look at it instead of thinking that it's just depressing. Thinking about that life doesn't last forever reminds us to make the most of our life, enjoy our life, do the things that we want to do, take care of the people around us, follow our passion. And these are beautifully painted pictures. There is a darkness there with the skull and thinking about the impermanence of life, but it's true, life is not permanent, so let's enjoy it and make the most of the time that we do have. Now, in thinking about how we're going to do a Vanitas picture inspired by these Dutch masters, a Vanitas-inspired still life, I was thinking we would do a skull and flowers, incorporate flowers into it. A skull to remind us that life doesn't last forever, that it's temporary, and enjoy it, and that life is beautiful. Flowers, they're temporary, they're beautiful. And when thinking about flowers and skulls, I was reminded of the imagery that's associated with Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead, a Mexican holiday you may be familiar with from studying in Spanish class, from seeing that imagery, or from the movie Coco, where that is one of the main features of the film is that it happens on that day. And since we're talking about that, I did want to put a nod in there to Frida Kahlo, the famous Mexican artist that is featured in that movie Coco. Now here is a Vanitas painting by the artist Pablo Picasso, who we looked at yesterday with his line drawings. So I'm going to show you today how we're going to create our own Vanitas-inspired, still life-inspired picture to remind us to seize the day, to make this most of this time that we have. All right, y'all, let me show you how we're going to do our drawings. Okay, so here I am. I have my pencil and my sketchbook and this step-by-step how to draw a skull. If you're looking at this on a device, you could pause that there to look at that. or you can follow along with me even though I'm going in fast forward. The first thing is I'm drawing a light line vertically and horizontally, breaking my paper into fourths, and then I flipped it over because that nose shape is an upside down heart, and it was easier for me to draw it right side up, but flip the paper over. And then I'm just following along step by step. Having it broken into fourths helps me get everything centered to draw this skull. And actually, knowing how to draw a skull will help us be better at drawing faces. I'm drawing it in pencil so I can make sure I get my drawing just how I like it. You can see there I'm shifting those eyes over, changing that placement a little bit. So having it be in pencil gives me that opportunity to erase and adjust my drawing. Later you'll see I outline in Sharpie. Now the how to draw directions don't have the directions for how to draw these flowers, so I thought back to when we studied Kehinde Wiley and those drawings. That phrase at the bottom, carpe diem, is Latin for seize the day, reminding us that to seize the day, make the most of this day, of this moment. And now you can see, guys, I have that black paper under there. That's so that the Sharpie, I'm outlining my drawing with Sharpie, that it doesn't bleed through to that next page in my sketchbook. And now that I've got it all outlined in Sharpie, you can see that I went in and erased the pencil lines, so just the Sharpie lines show up. And now I'm coloring in with color pencil, using pretty traditional colors, green for the leaves. I do use the lighter green, and then I go in with the darker green to give a little bit of variation, variety in that value, a lighter green and a darker green. I also fade the edges of those yellow flowers with orange, so just to give more dimension and variety to those colors. Now, here's a different still life example. They still break the paper. We still do the paper into fourths, a horizontal and then a vertical line. This is a more traditional still life. So if you don't want to do the skull drawing, if you prefer to do a more traditional still life, then this is a good option for you. Or you could do a mixture of both. And you may not have time to finish today, and that's fine. You may not have finished your contour line drawing from yesterday, and that's fine too. We're actually going to start a third project tomorrow, and then we'll have a day to choose one of those to finish, and we'll talk on that day about finishing up an artwork. So if you just get started and don't have time to finish, don't worry, you'll have an opportunity to come back to this. Now on this one, I did the same process, draw with pencil, outline with Sharpie, erase the pencil, and then go into color. Although on this one, I use my crayons to color in instead of the color pencils, but either way is fine. Okay guys, I'm excited to see you get started on your still life drawings, either a traditional still life like this one or a Vanitas still life, or maybe a mixture of both. All right, so let's get into it.